in the usual safety update few minutes before I introduce our main speaker for the afternoon. Okay.
Alright, so I'm going to be talking about arc melting safety. Basically, arc melting is using an electric arc to melt your material, mostly your samples, hopefully not your sample stage. Just a slight procedure to go through. You should always clean your sample chamber before you start arc melting. You don't want any contamination. Then you want to place your samples in the arc melting chamber in the sort of fingers or sample holders. And you want to try and put your more volatile materials on the bottom because this is a high energy process. Anything that's sort of brittle or has a very high thermal expansion will tend to fracture. And you want to kind of keep that underneath all the stuff that won't, so that way you don't lose any of your sample. And then you want to flush the system with argon, just to get rid of all the oxygen in there. You want to do that at least 3 times. And then you want to make sure that you turn on the water cooling. This protects your tungsten electrode and also your sample stage so you don't melt through it. Then you want to energize and then start melting. You don't really want to go right on your sample. You want to work the electric arc towards your sample and get a nice even heating. Once you're done melting, wait a couple minutes and then turn off the water cooling and vent it. And then remove your melted sample from the sample chamber. And then, as a courtesy to other people, you should always clean the sample chamber as well. And I'll talk more about that in the next one. So the hazards that are associated with this, you're working with electricity, so there's definitely the potential for high voltage and you're electrocuted. So you want to make sure that you're wearing insulated gloves and shoes. You're also looking at high temperatures here, so you want to make sure that you have the water cooling on because you don't want to damage the system or potentially get hurt yourself. One thing that you might not expect is that there's UV generated from an arc, and so you have to make sure that you have some sort of shielding between you and everyone else in the office and the arc. That way you don't damage your eyes. That can either be in the form of welder's mask or in a opaque shielding that absorbs UV radiation. And finally, there's also some toxic nanoparticle contamination possibilities, depending on what materials you're working with. When you do arc melt them, they do atomize and coat the inside of the chamber. So when you're cleaning the chamber and also when you're removing your samples, you need to make sure that you're not inhaling any of the nanoparticles that are present. Any questions?
Is that the picture right, is from the government?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
How many of you routinely do arc welding? Not so many. Well, maybe you will. So try and bear this in mind as we go forward. Okay, thanks, Chad. Let's give Chad a round